Hey everyone, welcome to Bugsmashers. I'm your host Mark Abent, and I have my good friend here, Patrick Salerno, and he's going to show us what?
Well, I've got a bug. I got to fix the Sabre. For some reason, when the Sabre smashes into things, it doesn't blow up correctly, so I'm going to blow it up.
So you're going to go bop, fix
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Fix it. Cool.
That's what I'm going to do.
Let's fix it.
Bugsmashers! So I recently got a bug for the Sabre, and the bug was that when the ship destroys, its nose just kind of hangs there, and the rest of the ship just spirals away, right? There's no breakup of the pieces. So this comes straight to me. So I took a look at the Sabre, and I took a look at the ticket, and watched the video, and someone kind of just rammed the ship into a rock and exploded and spiraled away. So I'm like, what could be causing that, right? So what I did was I already fixed the bug, but I'm going to go through the process as to how I fixed it. It's usually a day or two process as I go in trial and error my way through sort of various features. So since I figured out that we ended up adding a delay feature to some of the debris and the order that debris needs to break off with, I came up with, let's see here, we got a Sabre on our screen here. So when we're looking at the Sabre here, the first thing I do is I'm trying to figure out what pieces break off of what. It's the most important thing for me. Now there's two ways I can do that. In the ship here, I'm looking and I'm saying, well, here's my nose, right? And you know, it's got, say, mass and damage. And then these are parts that kind of break off with the ship. Now, what I found out is, well, there's really no effects. Things had changed. I needed to reorder this stuff and add new features to it to bring it in line. What I have here is a tool that shows the difference between two XMLs. So I have the old version and I have the new version. And I won't go into too many details of the specifics of this, but I ended up changing pretty much every single part. I either added new effects, I added the way it breaks off of the ship, I changed how the pieces are layered and how quickly they come off. Now in the XML, we can see one at a time. I came in and we'll go to my fixed one here. And let's see. That up. All right, I'll update that. So if we take a look at our object, I ended up adding a bunch of effects to it as well because he was missing effects. So let's hop in and see what it looks like pre-fix. So what I do is I hop into the editor and I'm like, well, you know, someone said the ship's not breaking correctly. Well, let's find out. Got a couple cheats for myself, dev hacks. All right, great. So now if I shoot the ship, I can check multiple things. I can check the UV2s, I can check the damage. Now from what I'm seeing, we're getting some effects, right, but there's nothing too much going on. Ship blows up, all right, we're at the functionality part, but we notice that as the ticket says, the nose kind of stays where it is. So now the first thing I did was break it apart piece by piece. Now if you're just a ship and you're peppering along the top of a ship, boom, it's just gonna blow up, right? What happens? Well, the nose stayed, but the body starts going forward. So I'm like, okay, bug is reproducible. Come in, shoot the other one, see how many pieces break off. All right, now it's time to get to work. We have successfully reproduced the issue. So from there, what I do is I go into 3D Studio Max, and I try and see how the pieces actually break apart, right? And in here, I have a variety of different ways to see what's happening. So I'm coming in, and as you can see, I've got this list down the side. This is actually the hierarchy of the ship. It's sort of like the skeletal bone structure of how it's set up. So when I click a wing, the wing is going to detach. We can see down here, it jumps straight to wing. And now I've got the wing geometry and these parts. So I'm coming in, I'm taking a look, I'm checking these little green squares you see here. These are called helpers. They end up being effects, making sure that when a piece explodes, melted metal happens, because what happens is I'll get a bug for, say, a piece of debris detaching. But for me, it's what's called kind of like a rabbit hole. I'll notice a few other things that I can quickly fix while I go in there. So I ended up going in and tweaking all the damage, tweaking how the debris hops off, and then I went into the ship and I shot it. So now that I did a couple changes in there, what I do is I come in here, I updated my XML, I went into the code, did some tweaks, come in, delete my ship, restart the game. Now I use a ship setup level which gives me various lighting conditions to check under. This is good for testing. Now boom, there, so now we have new effects, the debris kind of flies off and goes. And this is kind of what we're intending. Let me tone down my damage so I can pick off each piece. So what I'm doing is making sure that every single component on a ship that can detach does correctly detach. All the pieces that detach with it also detach with it. and that the probabilities I've set for the way the debris actually flies off are correctly interpreted. So now the cool thing about this is if I'm looking in the XML, over here, let's see, under say nose for example, we have this line here up top. And if we look under the old one, I noticed that, you know, it's got its mass and it's got its stuff, but, well, check this out. It doesn't actually detach. So we have this piece of code called detach ratio and detach probability. And we also have other things called like random force and base force. This is like X, Y, Z. So when the nose detaches from a ship, it needs to go poof, right, but the body needs to go poof, and the wings need to fly off to the sides. So I say, you know, a force of say 2 arbitrarily, go that way, how much it's going to spin, et cetera, et cetera. And then I come down to each part and I say, well, when the nose is destroyed, I want there to be a slight probability of everything else coming off too. So I had to reorder these from the original, and basically nose and body should always detach, right, on destruction for effect. But it has kind of a probability to it and a delay to it. Once I'm done with all that, I kind of do that to each and every component that does detach. And then I go back in and I start just sort of picking it apart. Now, if I blow up the nose, we can see the nose actually flies away. We are now working as intended after going in and tweaking all of the damage components. Now, what I do after this, if I've placed effects or I've done anything like that, I send this back to the testers when I'm done, and I ask them to reproduce the work, make sure that what I've done has made it into the game, and then I also send my temporary particle effects that you see flying off the ship right now, I send those to the effects guys to make sure that I'm in line. Because I don't actually make, say, the particles themselves. What I do is I go into a library and I'll start placing down ones, so fire, sparks, et cetera, and you know, try and place it logically, make sure all the damage works, ship melts away, so on and so forth. And then once I realize that, yes, debris is flying off, particles are happening, things are spinning, I realize the ticket is then complete, and I commit my work. But that's pretty much it. A little bit of back and forth between XML. Then I hop into Max and make sure that all my detachable components work together and that they're actually flying off as anticipated. And then in the editor, I test the setup, working live in-game under various lighting conditions, and I blow it up in as many ways as possible to make sure that it blows up correctly. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Problem solved, bug completed. Just for a quick before and after again, we will just get the old file and we'll delete this. And we'll go. And then I undo my delete and bring it back. This refreshes the scripts, so it knows it's updated. Then I hop back in game one time. Go back to my favorite lighting condition, which is space for some reason. I'm gonna come in and I'll blow it apart again, and I'll make sure that what I've done is actually what's expected. So it seems like, you know, that wing takes a little less damage than the other wing for some reason. You know, that may have gotten fixed. He takes a few shots, he pops off. Let's blow up the ship. Make sure that the initial issue is still there. Yep, nose stays, body moves forward. All right, we don't need to blow up the other ships to know it's consistent. Get my revision again. Delete these one more time just to be sure. And try it one last time. Here we are. What I'm doing is I still go through and I make sure that, yes, the ship completely explodes. It has one big explosion at the very end, but each subcomponent can rip off all of its other subcomponents. That's very important to the process, because if I say, for example, blow this off, but the wing doesn't blow off, I have a problem with my damage hierarchy, and I need to go in and figure it out. But as we saw, blowing up sort of inner wing part actually took off the outer part, but sometimes it doesn't. That's the probability, so that's actually working as intended. Great, let's just finish, because blowing things up is fun. There we go, fire, death, destruction, awesome. And we're good, and yeah, there we go. Now I send it to the final parties and get it tested and put in game.
So we had a fun little bug there. Patrick, how'd it go?
Yeah, so far so good. I think the bug is solved. The Sabre actually breaks up correctly now. You know, that's the important part. Also did a few updates to how the parts break apart, what it looks like when the particles fly off. And now it's getting tested and sent to the right parties.
Little XML, little export, little fun.
Yeah, poke some buttons, push some things, shoot some stuff, boom, everyone's happy.
Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed. Till next time.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.